Welcome to the Layman's Globe, where the world makes sense. For the past couple of years, the dominant global headline has been one of Russian macroeconomic defiance. By all traditional measures, the economy survived international restrictions. Oil kept flowing, factories ran around the clock, and GDP grew by roughly 3.6% in 2023, faster than many Western nations. But this chart shows a different reality. On the left, a steadily climbing GDP. On the right, a spiking bar chart of bankruptcy filings. In 2024, 431,000 Russians declared bankruptcy. In 95% of cases, it's the debtors themselves admitting they can no longer pay. A country's overall economic trajectory and its people's personal finances are moving in opposite directions. The high-level growth figures effectively mask the localized financial collapse happening inside millions of Russian homes. To understand the squeeze, we have to look at where the state's money comes from. When Europe slashed purchases of Russian crude, the government redirected the vast majority of its seaborne oil to new buyers in India and China. The state took those oil revenues and pumped them directly into defense manufacturing. With the federal budget allocating roughly 40% of all spending to national defense and internal security, factories secured massive contracts. Every tank and artillery shell purchased by the government counts as GDP, creating a surge in statistical industrial output. Building those weapons requires manpower. With hundreds of thousands of men signing military contracts, and with over 500,000 professionals emigrating, the labor pool drained rapidly. Today, the country faces the tightest labor market in its modern history. To attract the few remaining workers, defense factories aggressively hiked their wages. Civilian businesses like everyday retailers, local construction firms, and small manufacturers are now struggling to compete with these state-backed salaries. Flooding the defense sector with cash artificially inflated the incomes of a select few inside the massive military-industrial complex, while hollowing out the labor force needed to keep the broader economy functioning. That worker shortage and those localized wage spikes triggered intense inflation. While official average inflation hovered near 9%, market mortgage rates climbed toward 30%, making standard civilian home loans virtually impossible to service. As surging grocery costs eat through a family's savings, many turn to high-interest microloans to cover the basics. These loans often carry rates approaching 300% a year, creating a cycle of debt that expands until it physically outgrows the borrower's income. The government's effort to cool an overheated wartime economy transferred the crushing financial burden directly onto the shoulders of everyday, vulnerable consumers. Building military equipment creates a temporary surge in economic activity. A tank counts toward GDP the same way a hospital does, but once it rolls off the assembly line, it fails to generate any long-term, productive societal wealth. International financial restrictions are operating on a delayed timeline. Rather than an immediate collapse, they are creating a slow erosion of household stability. These restrictions function as a slow squeeze on the working class. Every blocked component and every marked-up gray market import works like a hidden tax, steadily eroding the country's financial margin for error. Protracted global conflicts are sustained not just by state treasuries, but by the endurance and savings of everyday households. When 431,000 families go bankrupt in a single year, the home front is absorbing the true cost of the battlefield. Thank you for watching, and as always, stay curious.